I've often joked that if there were a Guinness World Record for the boldest act of suburban sabotage, my ex-HOA president, let's just call her Karen, would win it in a landslide. No exaggeration. Picture this. I woke up one Tuesday morning to find 5 colossal shipping containers stretching across what Karen believed was just a farm driveway. Steel beasts lined up in a perfect, smug row, like a barricade straight out of a dystopian film. Oh, Karen, if only you had done your research. Before we go any further, let me just say this saga has all the makings of a neighborhood thriller. And if you think I'm exaggerating, hang tight, because her little power trip, it backfired gloriously. Let me rewind. 2 years ago, I bought a 10-acre property sitting just outside a freshly minted suburban utopia called Meadowview Heights. The kind of place that names itself after nature it bulldozed and enforces tranquility with a 100-page rulebook. My land was a legacy parcel, a quiet, slightly worn gem that had stood its ground long before the subdivision existed. The farmhouse was old but strong, the barn stood proud, and most importantly, I had full legal access via a gravel road known as Liberty Lane. To most, it looked like a simple drive. To me, an urban planner by profession, it was a documented easement, etched in legal records for over 70 years. That road was no accident. It was deliberate, binding, and completely immune to HOA interference. I checked every detail, title, survey, plat maps, before I ever signed check. My plan was simple. Run a small, organic farm, a few crops, chickens, maybe some goats I'd rescue. Low impact, quiet, real. But Karen saw my peaceful plot as a threat to her kingdom. She ruled Meadowview like it was a feudal estate, always in pressed knockoff blouses, her platinum hair movable as her opinions. If her Cadillac Escalade wasn't terrorizing the streets, she was buzzing around in her golf cart, like a mall cop with delusions of grandeur. You knew you were in trouble when she slowed down near your mailbox. At first, her vendetta came disguised as concern, a passive-aggressive note about grass along Liberty Lane. Never mind, it was technically the easement, not her land. I kept it trimmed anyway. Then came a typed HOA letter, crooked margins and all, complaining about my compost bins. Bins, I should add, that sat well over a football field's length from the road and were completely invisible unless you had binoculars or a serious creeping problem. I dug into the HOA bylaws. Nothing in there about compost on private, non-HOA land. I replied with a calm, well-cited letter, courteous but firm. That's when it turned personal. Karen wasn't fueled by facts. She ran on ego and fumes of imagined authority. She began blocking Liberty Lane with her Escalade, claiming the gravel drive wasn't meant for farm use. She called my equipment junk, and my trips down the road commercial abuse. I showed her the deed. Her only response? A snort and a hiss threat. We'll see about that. Time to lawyer up. My attorney, Mike, had the bite of a rattlesnake and zero patience for HOA theatrics. Document everything, he advised, and I did. Every weird note. Every time she tailed my truck. Every confrontation logged. I even mounted a small camera near the fence facing the lane, just in case. Then came the HOA's official move, a cease and desist letter from some bargain bin legal firm, accusing me of violating their private road and being a nuisance. They claimed my access could be revoked. It was laughable. My easement was airtight, registered, and immune to any HOA policy. Mike fired back with a withering legal response that read like a real estate law crash course for their lawyer. I figured they'd retreat. I was wrong. Instead, Karen retaliated in the most jaw-dropping way possible. One morning, I found my farm entrance completely sealed off, 5 full-size shipping containers placed end-to-end across Liberty Lane, 200 feet of pure, unmovable spite. I wasn't even mad at first. I was impressed. It was villainous and logistically absurd. Then reality hit. My deliveries were halted. I had fresh produce scheduled to go out, seeds to plant, feed to bring in. This wasn't just a stunt. It was sabotage. I called the non-emergency police line. A weary officer arrived, took one look, and shrugged. Civil matter. You'll have to take it to court. But he did issue a parking ticket to Karen's Escalade, which sat like a smug guard dog in front of her barricade. Small win, but not enough. So I paid a visit to the HOA office, housed in a former model home near the subdivision's edge. Karen was already there, flanked by her inner circle. Linda, nervous and wide-eyed, and Steve, her muscle, built like a linebacker, but apparently allergic to independent thought. They sipped HOA-branded mugs like royalty at court. I walked in calm. Karen, you blocked my access. Move the containers. Today. She didn't flinch. They're protective measures, she said sweetly. Liberty Lane is HOA property. Your tractors are damaging it. I reminded her, again, that my access was protected by deed and state law. Steve puffed up. The board voted. It's done. And how are you getting to this office now? I asked. Karen waved lazily toward a narrow strip of grass. We're fine. You worry about your little farm. Oh, Karen, you shouldn't have said that, because what followed made the shipping containers look like child's play. I snapped a few photos of the containers in Karen's car before heading back home, my mind already racing. My background in urban planning kicked in fast. Karen had assumed she blocked a simple driveway, but in reality, she had disrupted something much more important to her own domain. I went through my property deed carefully. It contained a perpetual, non-exclusive easement for all uses. Check. I reviewed the HOA's covenants next. No authority to block easements, especially from non-members like me. Another check. Then came the real treasure, county records. Liberty Lane, the road in question, wasn't just my easement. It had been officially platted in the 1940s as a public road stub, meant to connect to a county road that never got built. It existed in a strange gray area, quasi-public but still legally significant. Even better, the HOA's office parcel listed Liberty Lane as its only legal access point. The shortcut Karen used across the lawn wasn't a road. It was just grass, and ironically may have broken their own rule about not driving on common areas. She hadn't just boxed me in. She had effectively trapped her own HOA headquarters. I called Mike. She cornered herself. I said, laying out the maps and the history. He gave a low whistle. This is too good, he said. She's not just fighting you. She's blocking her own office. We mapped out our strategy. Mike drafted a certified letter to Karen and the HOA board, demanding they remove the containers within 72 hours, billing them for the financial losses to my farm, and pointing out that they had obstructed their own access. He included references to case law and attached plat maps to reinforce our position. I didn't stop there. I reached out to neighbors. Walt, a retired surveyor, confirmed Liberty Lane's long-standing use. He even remembered old Farmer Jenkins, the previous owner of my property, who had fought to preserve the road decades ago. The story spread like wildfire. Residents began murmuring about Karen's wasteful spending on the containers. Delivery drivers, landscapers, even the mail service were inconvenienced, stirring up even more dissatisfaction. Then came Karen's response. She emailed a classic denial, brushing off my interesting points, insisting the HOA owned Liberty Lane, and claiming their office had multiple ways in. Steve chimed in with a predictable, well-said Karen. Linda, curiously, said nothing, but now Karen's false claims were in writing. I sent the email to Mike. She's digging in, I said. He just laughed. Let's go to the county. Using my knowledge of the county bureaucracy, we filed a formal petition to clarify Liberty Lane's legal standing, arguing it was either a shared private road or a public stub. We backed our case with historical plats, current photos, Walt's affidavit, and Karen's damning email. The process wasn't fast, but it moved forward. A county planner, Ms. Carter, came out to inspect the site. She measured everything, documented the containers, and maintained a firm, professional demeanor despite Karen and Steve's attempts to charm her. A few days later, the county issued a violation notice to the HOA, citing obstruction of a platted access road and damage to common areas due to their makeshift lawn driveway. They were given 10 days to comply or face escalating fines. Karen ignored it. The fines stacked up. Whispers about a special HOA meeting to remove her started growing louder. Even Linda was seen in tears. The container, however, remained ugly, rusting symbols of Karen's ego. Then came the real moment of truth, the County Planning Commission hearing. Mike and I prepped like seasoned litigators. We had blow-up versions of the plats, a clean presentation, and detailed records of my financial damages. The room was packed with Meadowview residents. Karen's once loyal supporters looked nervous. The opposition was fired up and ready. Ms. Carter spoke first, delivering a professional but scathing report. Liberty Lane was clearly an access route. My easement was valid, and the HOA had effectively cut off its own access. She recommended immediate removal of the containers and official recognition of Liberty Lane's legal standing. Mike followed with quiet precision, walking the commissioners through the HOA's missteps and highlighting Karen's own self-sabotage. Karen's latest representative, a jittery newcomer, attempted to argue that the HOA had other ways in, but when asked to provide proof, he had none. Then Karen took the floor. Her lawyer tried to stop her, but she ignored him. She launched into an emotional rant, accusing me of destroying Meadowview's integrity and claiming Liberty Lane as their sacred route. She rambled about tractors and dirt and called the road our path. Her voice cracked as she lost control. The commission chair cut her off sharply. "We're here for facts, Ms. Thompson. The plats speak for themselves. You blocked your own office." The vote was unanimous. Liberty Lane was declared a shared private road. The HOA was ordered to remove the containers within 48 hours. The lawn-turned road was ruled a violation as well. By the next morning, workers arrived and the containers were hauled away. Karen disappeared. Steve stood watching, deflated and silent. Liberty Lane shone in the sunlight, clear and open once more. At an emergency HOA meeting, armed with the county's ruling, residents forced Karen to resign. Steve followed soon after. To everyone's surprise, Linda stepped up as interim president. She promised transparency and reform. The HOA now uses Liberty Lane daily. They even maintain it per the county's agreement, and I no longer face any access issues to my land. In fact, they now seek my advice on minor land matters. This battle wasn't just about a blocked road. It was about standing up for what's right, proving that facts and records can outmaneuver even the most stubborn adversaries. So if you ever find yourself up against someone like Karen, remember to stay calm, know your rights, and never underestimate the power of a well-documented plat.